Lady, it's only one lady. Would you like to recite the verse? Okay. Drishva, by seeing, anuyantam, following, Rishim, the sage, Atmajam, his son, Api, in spite of, Anagnam, not naked, Devya, beautiful damsels, Riya, out of shyness, Paridadu, covered the body, Na, not, Sutasya, of the sun, Chitram, astonishing, Tat Viksha, by seeing that, Prichati, asking, Muno, unto the Muni Vyasa, Jagadu, replied, Tava, your, Asti, there are, Stri Pum, male and female, Bida, differences, Na, not, Tu, but, Sutasya, of the sun, Vivikta, purified, Drishte, of one who looks. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. While Srila Vyasadeva was following his son, beautiful young damsels who were bathing naked covered their bodies with cloth, although Srila Vyasadeva himself was not naked. But they had not done so when his son had passed. The sage inquired about this, and the ladies replied that his son was purified, and when looking at them, made no distinction between male and female, but the sage made such distinctions. Purport. In the Bhagavad Gita 5:18, it is said that a learned sage looks equally on a learned and gentle brahmana, a chandala, dog eater, a dog, or a cow, due to his spiritual vision. Shukadeva Goswami attained that stage, thus he did not see a male or female. He saw all living entities in different dresses. The ladies who were bathing could understand the mind of a man simply by studying his demeanor. Just as by looking at a child, one can understand how innocent he is. Shukadeva Goswami was a young boy, 16 years old, and therefore all the parts of his body were developed. He was naked also, and so were the ladies. But because Shukadeva Goswami was transcendental to sex relations, he appeared very innocent. The ladies, who by their special qualifications could sense this at once, and therefore they were not very concerned about him. But when his father passed, the ladies quickly dressed. The ladies were exactly like his children or grandchildren. Yet they reacted to the presence of Vyasadeva according to the social custom, because Srila Vyasadeva played the part of a householder. A householder has to distinguish between a male and female, otherwise he cannot be a householder. One should therefore attempt to know the distinction between the body and soul without any attachment for male and female. As long as such distinction is there, one should not try to become a sannyasi like Shukadeva Goswami. At least theoretically, one must be convinced that a living entity is neither male nor female. The outward dress is made of matter by material nature to attract the opposite sex and thus keep one entangled in material existence. A liberated soul is above this perverted distinction. He does not distinguish between one living being and another. For him they are all one in the same spirit. perfection of the spiritual vision is a liberated stage, and Srila Shukadeva Goswami attained that stage. Srila Vyasadeva was also in the transcendental stage, but because he was in the householder's life, he did not pretend to be a liberated soul as a matter of custom. So the translation again, while Sri Vyasadeva was following his son, beautiful young damsels were bathing naked, covered their bodies with cloth, although Sri Vyasadeva himself was not naked. But they had not done so when his son had passed. The sage inquired about this. The young ladies replied that his son was purified, and when looking at them made no distinction between male and female. But the sage made such distinctions. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Namane Namaste Sarasatundave Gauravani Vicharane Nirvishesha Srinivadi Paskadyade Siddharane. Although it's extraordinary that Shukadeva Goswami was on such an exalted position that he didn't distinguish between men and women. Still, it wasn't simply by accident, or if we want to come to that same platform, Krishna explains the path in every chapter in the Bhagavad Gita, because that path is actually reality. Just like if we look at the material body objectively, and describe its reality, all we do is have to peel 1/4 of an inch of skin off the material body, and it ceases to be very attractive to most people, except a hungry dog. A hungry dog will find it even more attractive. So, the material nature has molded different forms in order to make some of them appear to be attractive to some persons. As I said, that a beautiful woman walking down the street will be seen as a nice meal for a dog. Dogs sometimes eat people when they're dead, especially in India. If a dog comes up to you and licks your face, it's not necessarily simply out of love. It's not we saying, oh, Fifi loves me. She just licked her behind, and now she's sharing her remnants with me by licking my face. Actually, in India, they do that sometimes in order to test and see whether the person's alive or not. The dog licks the person's face, and if the person doesn't react quick enough, then the dog bites off his nose. So for a hungry dog, a beautiful woman looks like a nice meal. For a lusty man, it looks like an object of she looks like an object of enjoyment. And for a brahmachari, she looks like trouble. So depending upon one's consciousness, one will see things differently. So how to come to the platform of consciousness where one sees things like Shukadeva Goswami. So we have to, for instance, we can cite the verses cited here. Vidya Vinaya Sampane Brahmanika Vihastini Shuni Chaiva Swapake Cha Pandita Samadarshanaha. That the humble sages, by virtue of true knowledge, see with an equal vision of the learned and gentle Brahmin, the cow, the elephant, the dog, and the dog eater. And Krishna doesn't start the chapter with that particular verse. The chapter starts with Sannyasastu Mahabaho Tattvam, is that right? Purna Yogam Chasam Shasi Yatshaya Eteya Ekam Tamai Bruhi Sanishchitam. Arjuna is asking about sannyas, sannyasam karmanam Krishna. He wants to know the difference between sannyas, renunciation of the world, and karma yoga. Prabhupada translates karma yoga as activities in Krishna consciousness. Karma yoga may not be fully Krishna. One who's engaged in karma yoga or Krishna's service may not be fully conscious of Krishna, but it's a path leading at least to full consciousness of Krishna. So Prabhupada equates it with pure devotional service, karma yoga. So Arjuna inquires, Sanyasam karmanam Krishna, puna yogam chasamshasi. That you've already told me there are two paths. One of them is karma yoga, and the other is sannyas. Sannyas means not to engage oneself in Krishna's service, but just to give up the material world, to renounce it somehow or another. Move into the Himalayas in a cave and sit there and think of Brahman, or something like that. Punya yoga, just Arjuna want to know which is better. Please tell me, what should I do? Should I go to the Himalayas and think of Brahman, or should I do some service? Or maybe I should go do some service, and when I get tired, go to the Himalayas and think of Brahman. So then Krishna answers that Sri Bhagavan Vacha Sanyasam Karma Yogascha Samshayascha Vinashati Samshaya Karma Yogascha Isharasta Karavavo Tuyastu Karma Sanyasya Karma Yoga Vashishate. I will explain to you that by performance of sannyas, that is renunciation of the objects of the senses, and by devotional service, they're both more or less, they're similar, but of the two, work and devotional service is better than the renunciation of the fruits of activities, or the renunciation of work. Because Arjuna wanted to flee the battlefield, and he thought, well, if I don't fight in the battlefield, I'm not going to get any reaction. If I'm not there when the whole thing comes down, everyone gets killed, no one's going to blame me for killing anyone, because I wasn't there. Take a picture with my friends in some ocean resort, and we'll read about the battlefield in the newspaper sometime. So I'm innocent. But Krishna says, actually, if you work in devotion, it's better even than the renunciation of the work. Even better than fleeing the battlefield and not killing your relatives. It would be better if you killed your relative, but you did it in karma yoga as a matter of devotion. So Krishna was not agreeing with Arjuna, his idea that I'm going to flee the battlefield and that way I don't have to kill my relatives and no one can blame me for what happens. So then Krishna says, Gayaksanitya sanyasi yo no dvaishni nakangshiti dedvanva hi mahabaho sukham bandha pramuchite. That one who neither hates nor desires the results of his work, results of his activities, is known to be always renounced. Such a person, free from all dualities, easily overcomes material nature. Material bondage and is completely liberated, Almighty Armed Arjuna. In other words, our real problem is not the fact that we may have to sometimes do things that are not so desirable, but our real problem is our attachment and aversion to the results. Instead of seeing things in Krishna consciousness, we see things in the material consciousness. That is in duality. We think that this is my friend, this is my enemy, this person's indifferent and partial, this person's rich, he's poor, this is a male or female. We see all duality, like you see a puppet in someone's hand, and you think the hand is actually a puppet. But the hand is not a puppet, the hand is holding the puppet. So similarly, the soul is holding the body, but we're thinking of the body. And therefore we don't see how the body is working on the material nature and how the material nature is working on the Krishna's directions. Therefore when we see things or we remember things, we don't remember Krishna, and that's called Maya. And material nature awards us with the gift of anxiety by seeing things apart from Krishna. We think this is going to be good or this is going to be bad. Yes, from the material point of view, sometimes things are good and bad from the material point of view. But from the spiritual point of view, good and bad don't really exist in the material world because it's all bad. If you're put into a cell with a nice prison with a nice refrigerator in it, and there's a TV set, although every day the guards come and beat you, you think, well, this is not so bad. I got a refrigerator and a TV. It's much better than these other guys next door. They have nothing. So why should I complain? Or maybe I'll complain. Maybe they should give me a video camera so I can put my day in the life in a jail on Facebook. Have all my friends give me likes. But after all, you're in a jail and you're being beaten. So what does it matter if you're a king or you're a Brahma or you're an insignificant ant? We're all in a jail being beaten by the three modes of material nature. Maybe some less and some more, but after all, we're not living in our actual existence. We're living in a false existence. And everyone else is also living in the false existence under the spell of the modes of material nature. And what is driving our existence? Our attachment and our aversion to this material existence. We think this is good, this is bad. Therefore I'll do this and I'll avoid that. But there's no reference to Krishna. What Krishna wants me to do is only what my mental concoction thinks is good and bad. And therefore I make my decisions, I dovetail my desires in order to avoid the bad thing, what I think is bad, and to get what I think is good. But no relationship to Krishna. And therefore Krishna is not there. And therefore we're in darkness. If the sun comes up, as it will be explained in a later verse, then there's no darkness. We're doing things in light. And if we're doing things in darkness, then whatever we're doing, we're going to bump into something and cause a mess. And that darkness is caused by our attachment or aversion, which material nature, when she sees we're attached and averse to something, then she covers us and puts us into a state where we're always trying to figure out what to do in order to get out of this attachment or this aversion. Therefore Krishna comes up to this, only the fourth verse, and he says, Sankhya Yoga Pritagbala Pravadanti Napandita Ekam Apyasita Samyak Ubaya Vidate Phalam. That only the ignorant speak of karma yoga and devotional service, or devotional service, as being different from the analytical study of the material world, that one who applies himself well to one of these paths achieves the results of both. Not exactly, but in the process of devotional service, we come to the liberated stage. And in the liberated stage, then we become free from these conceptions of duality. And by the Sankhya Yoga system, one may, after many lifetimes, become free from duality. Sitting in the cave and trying to meditate, one may give up this hankering lamentation and therefore become purified enough to give up, to actually realize that everyone is a spiritual being. Therefore, they're both the same, they both lead to at least liberation. Of course, devotional service goes beyond simply liberation from material concepts of life. It actually allows one to enter into the spiritual concept of life, where one knows what to do as a spiritual being. It's one thing to know who we're not, it's another thing to know who we actually are. It's good not to know that we're not this body, but it's even better to know what identity we have as a spiritual being. Therefore, yet prapyate sankyam. Is that right? Yeah. Yet sankyam prapyate sthanam. Tad yoga apigamyate ekam apyasita samyak ubaya vidate phalam. One who knows that the position reached by means of analytical study can also be attained by devotional service, who therefore sees analytical study and devotional service to be on the same level, sees things as they are. So, Bhagavatam, for instance, doesn't deny analytical study. In the third canto, Kapila Dev gives extensive analysis of the material world and how it works. Doesn't paint a very pretty picture of it. Therefore, most people you won't find an article on Sankhya Yoga from the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam in a Playboy magazine. It would kind of spoil the whole the magazine. And at the same time, people, if they read it, the Bhagavatam, many karmis will get very disturbed, the description. How the husband is working to maintain his family, and then when he gets old, he's treated like an old, worn-out ox. Can't give any more results, and therefore they treat him very neglectfully. Or they say in English, the old gray mare, there's a song, the old gray mare, it ain't what it used to be. You heard that song before? Anyhow, it's a famous American song. The old gray mare ain't what it used to be, ain't what it used to be, ain't what it used to be. So they neglect it. It's useless. Like giving away a blind cow. Cow can't do anything, so why take care of it? So it's not a very pretty picture painted in order to detach. Kapila Dev tells his mother, because his mother wants to become detached from material sense gratification, so he paints the picture, which most people think is disgusting, and that we're fanatics. Just like we had a party that went out every week, sometimes twice a week in Radhadesh. My disciples there, we'd all go out to different places in Belgium or in Holland and distribute books. Maastricht was our favorite place because it was kind of like in the middle of both Holland and Belgium and all these people from all over, France and Italy. It was very international. So one time, one of my disciples' wives distributed a book, and the book came from the fifth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, The Forest of Material Enjoyment. And she distributed the book to, my disciple's wife, she's actually a disciple of Srila Prabhupada, and she looked like an ordinary lady, because we didn't go out in devotional clothes. I did, but she didn't, she went. So anyhow, she distributed one book to one lady. I forget the name in Dutch, what it's called. But it's about the forest of material enjoyment. And there's a picture in there of one man, and he's surrounded by his wife and children, and his children have fangs and claws, and the wife is a fox. Trying to devour the poor man. So the lady had the address and the phone number of the temple, so she called up the temple and said, such a nice lady distributed this book to me, but it's such a horrible book. How could she have sold me such a book? This man she's portraying her husband as a fox trying to devour him, and the children have claws also and fangs. What kind of organization is this? So obviously the lady didn't read the entire Bhagavad Gita and to lead up to that particular version and understand the idea of detachment. Anyhow, we all have this romantic idea of material existence. Otherwise, it wouldn't go on. If anyone had X-ray eyes and could see, oh, here's a beautiful lady, and then sees through the skin and sees the flesh and the bones and everything else, then it wouldn't be very romantic to embrace a skeleton. But one who sees further can see this spiritual being, the beautiful spiritual soul, along with the super soul. And therefore, everyone becomes beautiful and attractive. not due to the body, which is just a covering, but to the real nature of the soul, which is thousands of times, it says 10,000 times more brighter than the sun, more beautiful than anything. So one who sees like that, everyone becomes attractive. It's not that when we see reality, everything becomes disgusting. Actually, everything becomes attractive, because one is able to see it in relation to Krishna and see the reality of the souls, how beautiful they really are. Everyone is beautiful spiritually, the reality. Therefore, Krishna says that both Sankhya Yoga, although it's not very pleasant at first, eventually gets down to the soul. And when it gets down to the soul, then one sees the beauty within everything. And devotional service starts from the soul, and therefore it starts from the idea that everything is being moved by Krishna, and therefore everything that happens is good. Because Krishna is all good, and therefore whatever is happening to us is also good. What's not good is we don't surrender to it. We fight with our minds, trying to figure out how to avoid what I think is bad and get what I think is good, and forget about Krishna in the meantime. Therefore, sannyasastu mahabaho tattvam ichami tattvam dukkam apnyam yogataha yoga yukta minir brahma natrena digachate. Merely renouncing all activities and not engaging in the devotional service of the Lord cannot make one happy, but a thoughtful person engaged in devotional service can achieve the supreme without delay. In other words, we don't have to stop anything. We don't have to change anything, which is quite a unique conception. We don't have to change anything. We don't have to fight against anyone. Of course, if you're crossing the train tracks and the train's coming towards you, you should probably step out of the way. Not thinking, well, here comes Krishna. If Krishna wants, the train will stop. If not, I'm going to get run over. No. Krishna also wants to give us intelligence how to work for him. And one of the things he doesn't want us to do is to have his body run over by a train unnecessarily. Just like Sanatana Goswami wanted to put himself underneath the wheels of the Jagannath cart during Rath Yatra, because he was thinking that he was offending Chaitanya Mahaprabhu by the oozing sores that were coming from his body. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu didn't agree. He told Haridas Thakur, your friend Sanatana Goswami, he wants to destroy my property. Is that very good? That Sanatana Goswami's body is meant for my service and he wants to destroy it. So Sanatana Goswami understood that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was omniscient and that he had plans for himself, for his body, to utilize in constructing temples and writing books. So Krishna has a plan for all of us, that we have something to do in his service, and he wants us to take care of the body. Therefore, yoga yukta vishuddhatma vijitatma jitendriya sarva bhutatma bhutatma koravanapni lipyate. Then who works in devotion is a pure soul, who controls his mind and senses, is dear to everyone and everyone is dear to him. Though he's working, such a person is never entangled. So we're supposed to find out what Krishna wants us to do and then do that for him. That's called yoga yukta. And then we become purified. That's purified consciousness. To do things for Krishna without attachment to the results, simply as a matter of duty, is purified consciousness. And even like Arjuna, if he was killing people on the battlefield, the question is raised, how could he be in pure consciousness? He was killing people. But the answer was, he wasn't exactly killing anyone. He was simply acting as an instrument for Krishna. Krishna was killing everyone, as he's killing everyone anyhow. As Prabhupada used to criticize people, how they were hogs and dogs and camels and asses. And people would criticize, well, Prabhupada, you're supposed to love everyone. Why are you so critical? Calling everyone a hog and a dog and a camel and an ass. So Prabhupada said, I'm not calling anyone that. It's Krishna who's doing it. I'm simply repeating what he told me to repeat, that's all. If you want to take it up with Krishna. He's calling everyone a hog, a dog, camel, and ass by their activities. So then, naiva kinchit karomi ti yuktamanyate tattvavet, pashan shrivan svishandri grana shnangachan swapan swasan, pralapan vishijangrinanu mishana mishanapi, indriyarniyarte shuvartanta iti daryan. That a person who is in the divine consciousness, I think that's the words here, in divine, though engaged in seeing and hearing and smelling and breathing, while moving about, knows that only the material, that he does nothing at all. Because while receiving and evacuating and opening and closing his eyes, he knows that only the material senses are engaged with their objects and that he's aloof from them. So one becomes detached. One becomes detached. There used to be the ice cream truck in America. Is there an ice cream truck? You buy ice cream, make sure there's no chocolate on it. Okay, the truck went away. No customers in the Hare Krišna movement. So, when one becomes detached from material conceptions of life, then he also becomes detached from the material body and the mind. And then he's able to understand that he's not doing anything, he's simply an instrument. Therefore, he doesn't take pride in what he's doing, nor does he lament when there's a failure in what he's doing, because he understands this is Krishna's arrangement. Jatayu, who was killed by Ravana trying to defend Sita, was equally glorified as Hanuman, who was able to defend Sita and destroy the enemies of Sita. But because they both fought for Ram, they're equally glorified, and they attain the same destination. So brahmanyari karmini sangam tyaktva karotiya lipitena sapapena patma padramivambasa. That a person, when he performs his duty without attachment, surrendering results to the Supreme Lord, is not affected by sinful action, just like the lotus leaf, it is untouched by water. So on the lotus leaf there's a kind of waxy substance. So though the lotus is on the water, even water splashes on the lotus. It just, the drops just fall off the lotus leaf. It's not affected by the water. So one who's surrendered to the Supreme Lord and does everything for Him without expectations of any particular result, then he's not affected by attachment, aversion, or sinful reactions. So this is very good to understand, because in the process of devotional service, we may be proud or we may be feeling safe because we've accepted religious principles of cleanliness, mercy, tolerance, and truthfulness. Therefore, we're avoiding illicit sex, intoxication, gambling, and meat eating. And therefore, we know how to act piously, especially because we're performing devotional service, which is the most pious activity. Therefore, we feel kind of safe. But above that is conquering sinful reactions. And here it says how one conquers sinful reactions, become aloof from attachment or aversion by doing everything to satisfy Krishna according to his directions, Guru, Sadhana, and Shastra, and the super soul within. Then, Kayena manasa buddhya, kevala indriyarapi, yogina karma korvanti, sangam tyagdvatma shudaye. The yogis abandoning attachment act with body, mind, and words only for the purpose of purification. Yukta karma palam tyaktva, shantim apnoti, shantim apnashtikim, ayukta karma karina, karma fali sakti nibadite. The steadily devoted soul attains unadulterated peace because he offers the results of all activities to me. Whereas a person who's not in harmony with the Supreme, who's greedy for the fruits of his work, becomes entangled. And how to do that? Sarva karmini manasa, sanyasyasi sukhamvasi, naiva dvaire pare dehi, naiva korvana karyan. The embodied soul, when the embodied soul controls his nature and renounces the results of activities, all activities, he resides happily in the city of 9 gates, neither working nor causing work to be done. The kartrivam karmani lokasya srijati prabhu, the karmapala samyogam svabhavastu vartate. So how does he see things? The embodied soul, master of the city of his body, does not create activities, nor does he create the results of his work. Nor does he induce people to act, nor does he create the results of his work. All this is done by the material nature. Therefore, nadate kasite papam, na papam sukritim vibhum, agyane navritam gyana, tena muyanti jantava. Nor does the Supreme Lord assume anyone's sinful or pious activities. Embodied beings, however, are bewildered because of the nescience which covers their real knowledge. So our anxiety over the past, present, and future is all due to ignorance. Anxiety when our mind gives us some future and we become anxious about it, or when it tells us about the past and we become disturbed about it, it's all due to illusion. All we do is have to be in the present and ask what Krishna wants us to do. And we know what Krishna wants us to do under the full conception of what's going on, not blindly. Then we're safe. The soul is safe. The body's not safe. Arjuna, when Krishna told Arjuna to go and fight, it wasn't that necessarily that Krishna was going to stand in front of Arjuna and every arrow that was shot, Krishna was going to catch, or deflect, or put his body in front of Arjuna so he got the arrow, because Arjuna surrendered to him. No, Arjuna had to take so many arrows in his body every day. Sometimes Krishna took a few arrows from Bhishma Dev, but Arjuna was in Krishna consciousness. He was in ecstasy. He felt the arrows would be like flowers hitting his body, because he was in a different platform of consciousness. So when our enemies attack us and throw us verbal insults, we should take that like flowers coming from Krishna and remain in Krishna consciousness. Then we come Yanena tutara gyanam yeshanashitam atmanaha tesham adityivad gyanam prakashiti tatparam. When, however, one is enlightened with knowledge by which nescience is destroyed, that his knowledge reveals everything like the sun lights up everything in the daytime. So when the Krishna sun arises by pure chanting of the holy name, then we'll be illuminated, and it won't be difficult to remain aloof from these attachments and aversions, the dualities of material existence. And how to do it? Buddhya, again, Buddhya Vishuddhya Yukto, Chitatmana Niyamyacha, Shabda, no, that's right. Tad Buddhya Sadatmanas, Tad Nishtas, Tad Parayanaha, Kachantnyapana Avritim, Jnana Niduta Kamasha. When one's intelligence, mind, faith, and refuge are all fixed in the Supreme, then one becomes cleansed of all misgivings by complete knowledge, and thus proceeds straight on the path of self-realization. Then, by engaging not only our body, but our intelligence, our mind, our faith, our refuge, everything in Krishna consciousness, then all our misgivings will become cleansed. And vidya vanaya sampane brahmani gavi hastani shuni chaiva swapake cha pandita samadarshana. Then we'll be able to see with an equal vision the learned and gentle Brahman, the cow, the dog, the elephant, and the dog eater. So there's a process of doing that. Simple process, not so easy to apply. We're a little attached to our attachments and aversions, but by practice and by trying to concentrate on the holy name, it can be achieved without delay. So I'll stop there. Thank you. Any questions or comments? Yes.
I was thinking about everybody. We all have some relation with Krishna in whichever, as a servant, or we have different rasas. So I was thinking that unless one realizes his constitutional position and his relationship with the Lord, is it that he will not go back to the spiritual world? And but at the same time, if he remembers Krishna at the time of death, but he hasn't realized. He won't
remember Krishna at the time of death. He may remember something that's like Krishna at the time of death, Just like the Muslim, when he was being killed by the boar, he shouted, "I Ram, I Ram," which means abominable. But he also chanted the name of Ram in there. It's called Namabas. So he got liberation. He didn't go back to the spiritual world by chanting the name of Ram at the time of death, but he did get liberation. So if we don't know what Krishna looks like, we're not going to go back to the spiritual world. Even if we chant his name, what are we going to remember if we don't know who Krishna is? But we chant the name of Krishna sometimes. They say that Gandhi chanted the name of Ram at the time of death, but he wasn't in Krishna consciousness. He didn't obtain liberation. I may have obtained liberation, but he didn't go back to the spiritual, to Goloka Vrindavan or Vaikuntha, that's for sure. He may have merged in Brahman, which is doubtful also, but anyhow, that's possible. Anything else? Yes, we have a...
Hi, thank you for your lecture. I was just wondering if one of the goals is to get free from dualities.
Definitely is.
Why do we make them along the way? Like there is sinful and unsinful activities. There is, let's say, sense enjoyment and purification of senses. Like we have
or Krishna consciousness. We
have all these dualities along the way. So if
no, there's no duality. See, the dualities are when we see male and female, happiness and distress. That's the dualities. There's no duality between pure devotional service and sense gratification. There's two different things. That's all. It's not a duality. It's not male and female are both engaged in material bodies. But pure devotional service is spiritual, and material activities, sense gratification is material. Covers our consciousness. One liberates it. The other one covers it. Well, when you're in Maya, then you'll see. Then the whole life, your whole existence, will be full of dualities. And when you're liberated, there won't be any more dualities. It's not that you don't see male and female, but you don't see them as the absolute reality. You see the absolute reality that everyone's a spiritual being. Just like everyone has a different shirt on. But we don't think you're a red shirt and he's a blue shirt and she's a shirt with a hood on it, whatever. No, you understand that these are not the person, it's the covering of them. So the duality is when you see red, blue, whatever, gray, that's duality. But when you see the person, that they're all persons, then there's unity.
So at the transcendental platform, okay, we're back. So at the transcendental platform, the duality automatically disappeared. And
that's right.
One can only understand this by raising his or her consciousness.
Right, that's right. Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else? Yeah. Dadati pratigrinati. Offering things. Okay.
Just like Prabhuji asked about this, duality service.
Yeah, actually you finally held it right next to you. Okay. Okay, well say it loudly then.
So if one is liberated, and so he doesn't feel that duality because he sees the happiness and distress to be equal and.
Well, how often do you look at someone and think they're a green shirt or a purple shirt? Then you usually look at people and you think there's a person wearing a green shirt. So you see that there's no duality. They're people. They're not shirts. So once you understand, you see the souls, then you don't identify them with the material bodies anymore. Although they have different bodies, but you don't think here's a green shirt, here's a blue shirt, here's a red shirt. You think here's a person in a shirt, here's a soul in a material body. And the material bodies are basically made of the same things: earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, and false ego in different shapes. And the different shapes are meant for bewildering the souls, so they stay in the material concept of life. But one who sees the soul, actually sees the soul, or even understands the soul, then he's not bewildered by all these different forms that the soul has been put into. Anything else? Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Gaur Premanande. By the way, seeing the soul is only half the chapter. The other half is about seeing Krishna, not only the soul.
Hare Krishna.